8:34 p.m. It's Friday, August 30th. I'm following up from the other video. So anyway, I might get some housework done. I think my little quiet time is just about over now, so I'm going to go on and do something else. I'm trying to switch things up, But, I was thinking about the difference between being religious and the difference between being spiritual. Throughout my targeting, I was constantly asked, what do you believe? What do you believe? I didn't put the connection there, that somebody was targeting me for religious reasons until a few years after it happened. I started working over at the farmer's place in 2009, and shortly after I got there, I was asked that question like almost out of the blue, which made me start thinking, okay, that's kind of weird. I just kept thinking that people somehow around me were overly religious. I didn't realize that somebody was specifically targeting me, and it took a while for me to kind of connect things. But anyway, I think most people know by now that I don't attend a church, and I don't consider myself to be religious. I do consider myself to be more spiritual, and I think there's a difference between the two. Now, I think my main perps, who were, I'm referring to my former family, specifically my former brother-in-law, who, started this cause stalking issue. And then, of course, it filtered down to Joel's family and so on and everything, which is funny because, these people act like they can hold themselves up to as an example of how you should walk in Christ's footsteps, which I find laughable. But still, I remember saying, well, I'm not religious, I'm more spiritual. And then they would try to debate, as to why, just much like when I was a teenager, where they would debate why was I sitting with Jehovah's Witnesses instead of going to their church, and blah, 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 blah. And this there, as an adult, pretty much the same thing. I've given religion a try. Okay. I've gone to churches, different ones and everything, and it's just not for me. Some people think that religion, identifying with a specific religious group, that's enough for them, but they don't really look at it as a form of a lifestyle change. I don't need religion. I don't need it, and I'm not bashing people who do. Some people have an interest in God, and the only way that they're going to ever delve into any sort of formal study is if they go to Bible study. They don't want to do it on their own. That's fine. So they find a group of people they want to study with that or whatever. Some people, they may not be as, how can I say that, strict with themselves. They may not be able to follow all the guidelines, but they still have somewhat of respect for it. So they'll go to church or whatever for that reason. Some people go for spiritual fulfillment, okay? And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about psychic powers or anything. We're talking about spiritual, anything that is above this world, okay? Obviously, God would be considered above this world, okay? We talk about, things that are not the earth, things that are of heavenly origin, that are important for people's beliefs in the afterlife, or just because they have respect for something that's greater than them, So, so they'll go, and I don't see anything wrong with that. But when religious people are claiming to be representatives, okay, of someone like Jesus Christ, and saying that they're serving God, and then they take this forceful, abusive behavior, and they try to manipulate and bully you into their belief system, which is not Christ-like at all. That is obviously something that is wrong, for many reasons. Legally it's wrong, as well as, that God himself wouldn't agree with that sort of behavior. If you're going to make a dedication to something, it has to be sincere. Whether that be a dedication to a friendship or a romantic relationship a business partnership or any kind of relationship, it has to be sincere. Just like some people get married for money, some people get married for love. Okay, some people go into it knowing exactly it's a mutual agreement, they're in for it for money, whatever, then they go into it, but they at least have the same understanding, that they're both agreeing to something that they understand and they're going to do it. When it comes to forcing people into your religious view, if somebody held a gun up to my head and said, you're going to have to love Joel, they might physically force you to be with that person. They might physically do that, but you'll never love that person. You will never care about that person. You will never whatever. And the same thing goes, and most importantly, for things like religion. Like, if you're talking about devoting yourself to God, if you're only doing it because you're being threatened by a bully, if Judgment Day was to come, the truth would be revealed. So it wouldn't make sense to make that sort of dedication unless, of course, you truly are doing it for the right reasons. It doesn't make sense. I think what bothers me so much is that I would think that I always thought that certain people had more common sense than that. Like, and then you find out that these people who are supposed to be so, far more sophisticated than me, they're begging and trying to force me into their lifestyle, but they're imbeciles. Like, they just do stupid shit. Unintelligent, thoughtless shit. And I'm supposed to sit here and I'm going to imitate that. Yeah, I want to be like that. Give me a break, I appreciate quiet time. I appreciate meditation. Some people aren't comfortable with meditation because there's so much, what do you call it? Everything that is different from other people gets a lot of negative, what do you call it? Reviews or comments, or there's always going to be some sort of need to sabotage something that's different that you don't understand. I'm not trying to convert people to my way of living, and I would never try, but this is my channel, so I'm going to talk about how I feel about certain things. Some people aren't comfortable with psychic people. They don't like the term psychic, but they'll go to their church and they have somebody who somehow has second vision. They're blessed with the quote unquote Holy Spirit, and they have the same gift, but they'll bash it when it comes from somebody else, because it's not something that they can identify under their religious faith. A lot of people have second sight, ESP, telekinesis. I will say it is strange. Okay, it's not as common. It's rare. Okay, but you find people like myself who have these gifts, and it's something that a lot of people are born with. People from different backgrounds have it. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic, you're Pentecostal, you're Lutheran, you're a Mormon. This is something that many people have. This is what they were born with. Okay? And I think every religion tries to explain it in some way. I've met a lot of fake Christians who swear up and down that they believe in the Bible and blah, 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 blah. But they constantly, downplay, or they act like they don't believe in, or they just outright refuse to believe in things that are of the supernatural origin, or things that exist in the supernatural, even though their own Bible talks about these things. So not everybody's comfortable with it, and so as I got older, I realized, that what's normal to me isn't normal to everyone else. So it's not something that I really talk about to other people. I talk about it on my videos because my second sight has allowed me to obtain information that has been useful to me. I guess, I am different. I do see things differently, but it works for me. You know, I respect other people's way of living, and I try, you know, actually, I don't even have to try. I don't care. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable with who I am. So I don't feel this sense of insecurity to try to make people see things my way. Unless, of course, they're trying to manipulate or force their shit on me. And then I'm going to stand up for myself and say, well, here's why I don't think you should be doing this. And it's always a good reason. You know what I mean? But when it comes to, you know, spiritual things, I consider myself a spiritual person, okay? And I've studied or read certain things in different religions, you know, throughout my life. Like, I don't know everything there is to know about Catholicism, but I know a pretty good deal about Catholicism, you know? And I know about, you know, the Baptists, and I know about Mormons, who were one of the first religious groups I was interested in when I was a kid. I've done a lot of searching throughout my life, you know, because I always wanted to know, what is this? Why do I, you know, have premonitions? Why is my brain, you know, connected to certain things? Why do I deal with noises and things like that, you know, relating to things that are electronic, okay, especially electronics. You know, I'm in tune with the electronic things. That's a form of telekinesis. Now, some people have telekinesis in a different form. Some people say they can move objects. I don't have that ability to do that. But some people are connected to certain things, you know. And it's a phenomenon, you know, scientific phenomenon. But when you think about the spiritual aspect of it, it does exist. You know, I don't care what religious background you come from. Every religious background believes in it, you know, to some degree. Some people are leery of it. Some people think that's evil, but it's not evil, okay? It's not an evil thing. Now, people can use it for evil. They can do that, you know what I mean? I've only, you know, I use my gifts for my protection, you know what I mean? And protection for myself and people that I care about, you know? I think if some people had powers, like, you know, they had the power to do malicious things with it, some people would abuse it, their power. Like, in some ways, my wicked family, ex-family, had power. They persuaded people, they convinced people with their mask and their disguise of Christianity. And they became power hungry, and they started to get even more abused than they've ever been before. But for me, I'm very, I don't know. You know, I enjoy living a spiritual life, but I also like to be more mundane as well too. I mean, I don't want to be at home all the time, you know, meditating and, you know, that kind of stuff. It's good and it serves its purpose, but it's not something that I'd like to be out and about talking, you know. Maybe it's Friday night. Why am I at the house all the time? Now, mind you, I'm not a partier. I sure as hell don't hit bars, but still, you know, I should have more of an active life than what I have. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, you know, whatever. But anyway, I was just thinking about the spiritual thing, and you know, I know a lot of people are from or raised in religious backgrounds. I wasn't specifically designated in my family. We didn't have a designated spiritual background. You know, we studied with Jehovah's Witnesses when we were kids. My dad did. And then when I got to be a teenager, I studied on my own. But I know we went to a Baptist church a few times, but we never were raised to believe, or we weren't really structured religiously. You know, like, if we did something wrong, it wasn't like, well, you know, you just offended God. It was never that. It was like, you offended your parents and you're going to get your ass beat. That's basically how that was. You know, how that was, God viewed your behavior really wasn't the motivating factor for good behavior in our house. You know, it wasn't. So that was something on my own, you know. But still, I was always raised to believe by the time I was 18 years old, you have the right to choose your religion. You know, when I was growing up studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, I studied, but I never got baptized as a Jehovah's Witness. And I started studying when I was like 13. And I didn't, throughout those years, I would just basically study, attend some of the meetings or whatever, but I never got baptized because I wasn't allowed to get baptized until I was 18 years old. 17 or 18, I think it was, my mom had it set the rule. And so, and then having somebody all of a sudden, out of the blue, come tell me I'm supposed to be some sort of goddamn religion. I don't think so. Especially here in the United States of America, you don't tell fucking people how to fucking worship God or whatever. You don't do that shit. And that, I can't even, when I think of the people who got behind that one, my mouth just like, what the fuck were people thinking? I think about the mind control and how people can easily manipulate other people into doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But as an adult, I can't be fooled like that anymore. I remember when I was younger, there was this rumor going around that there was going to be the end of the world, and I believed it. I was like in 5th grade, okay? I was in 5th grade, and I believed it because I was still, learning about God and the Bible and things like that. I was still learning at that time. And it bothered me. And I remember my brother laughing at me because, I believed it. And he would bring it up sometimes after years went by or whatever. He'd bring it up just to be an asshole like he always is, right? And so, but I think of, okay, I was a kid. I was a teenager, too, when I believed in things that, that I feel now that I was conned into believing or I was misguided. Okay, I can be proud of the fact that I was misguided at a younger age than the people who got involved, and even worse, I would say, the main perpetrator, Jim Culligan, and his wife, and all these other blind sheep fools that got involved in it. As an adult, you were completely blind. You were gullible. You fell for something that, is actually criminal. So I'm not ashamed that I did that. I think I came off as nerdy a little bit, dorky maybe, because I had interest in spiritual things. But I think it was just because I needed to find out who I was. Like, why am I like this? Why am I always thinking about spiritual things? And I'm able to do things that other people aren't able to do. So since that God is like, everywhere, omnipresent or whatever, you think, okay, well, then that's where I'm searching. This is where I'm going to look for my answers somehow, So, and plus I wanted to live a good life. I really did. I wanted to be, I did mention before I wanted to be a nun, or thought about it, considered it when I was younger. I mean, I wanted to be as close to, I wanted to be as close to it as I possibly could. Things that are not removed from the earth. I wanted to be as spiritual as I possibly could be. And that's very strange for some people, but like I said, I'm one of those people who is comfortable with that. That's what I am, And so my family always hated me. They hated me from day one. And then adding the fact that I was weird like that, then that just made them hate me even more, So whatever. Hey, I'm being hate for a good cause, you know what I mean? I'm better than you guys. Go fuck yourself. You guys have very low moral standards, and you are very abusive. I'm not saying I'm better than them. I'm saying that because it's like, you guys are so fucking stupid, it's not even funny. And arrogant and ignorant and just everything I cannot stand in a person. And I'm just making this video because I have nothing else to do, and I'm just thinking thoughts again, just things are going through my mind, and releasing. That's what I'm doing. I'm releasing my feelings, so I can get up tomorrow and face the next boring day where I will be twiddling my thumbs most of the day after I run my errands. Anyway, I think I'm done for the night. Be back with another video later.